Leo Cloutier is brought to you by Posterfix.
This is Leo Cloutier with Malice to None. We're here at the home base of the spring training base of the New York Mets today, the world champions, and it's a dear pleasure to have as our guest another world champion in his own rights ever since he carved an inch in this vast field of baseball. I'd like to welcome to our show the voice of the New York Mets, Lindsey Nelson. Welcome, Lindsey.
Leo, thank you very much. Always a pleasure to see you.
Well, it certainly is a pleasure to see you here today, this beautiful day, Linz. Since I last saw you, a great deal of water has gone over the dam, so to speak, and you've just ended, or recently ended, a season which will live in your memory for quite some time, no doubt.
Most exciting thing that ever happened in my lifetime, and the most fun, Leo, and the only sad thing about it is that it can only happen for the first time once, and no matter what happens from now on, if they would have won it for 10 years, it can't ever be as exciting and as satisfying as that first time around.
Yes, all right. It becomes second nature after that, I suppose, Lindsey. Lindsey, you've been in the radio field as a top-notch sportscaster for how many years?
Well, I've been in the field, Leo, for about 30 years, and I hesitate to say that anymore because it sounds longer and longer ago.
And you certainly have carved quite a niche for yourself in this great game of baseball as one of its outstanding announcers for so many years. The New York Mets of 1969 amazed the world in general, and of course the Baltimore Orioles in particular. What do you think is in store for them for this coming season?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see because you never know what effect success has on an individual ball player or on an aggregate of ball players. So I'm going to be interested just at the start to see exactly what the apparent effect is. Sometimes success like that will spur a ball player. Sometimes having reached a goal, it's impossible for them to put out, to expend as much energy as they have before. That's going to be the interesting thing to observe. Of course, Gil Hodges is hoping that some of the ball players who didn't have especially good years, and we had some, will have good years to make up for whatever the drop-off is in the others.
Linz, undoubtedly, as you speak of success, you remember the Broadway play, Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter, I always think of Rock Hudson. Yeah. Do you think that this will travel through the ball?
Well, I don't think that as such that success will spoil them, but again, you just don't know. Every individual has to react differently, and that's going to be the whole thing. How will the success, having reached the goal, affect the individual ball player? And that's something, as reporters, we'll have to watch very closely early to see if there are any indications that it is affecting them.
Yes, all right. Lindsey, the Mets made some trades. They didn't stand pat because they know what's ahead. What do you think? How do you think these trades will work? Especially the acquisition, for instance, of a former Red Sox third baseman, Joe Foy.
I think the trades were good, and I was delighted to see them make them. They knew that they needed a little help at third base. They got by last year. They had Ed Charles there, who's no longer in the organization. They had Bobby File, who was brought up at midseason. And they had Wayne Garrett, who had a fine year, although he's the youngest member of the ball club, 21. So they needed a little stability. I think in Foy, they got what they needed. They wanted a right-hand batter. They wanted a little power. They wanted speed, and I think they got it.
Well, Linz, I see that our time is up as much as I just like to say so, but I certainly want to thank you very much for this interview again. It's always a pleasure to see you. It's always a pleasure to listen to that tremendous voice which you have, and I think if I ever heard that voice in the dark, I'd be able to pick it out right away, so don't ever try to hide.
Leo, you're very kind. Thank you very much.
It certainly is a pleasure to talk to you again. This is an interview with Lindsey Nelson, the voice of the world champion New York Mets, and a champion himself for so many years in the field of broadcasting. And this brings us to the end of With Malice to None for today. From St. Petersburg, Florida, Payson Field, Leo Cloutier, good day.
To learn more about Leo Cloutier's sports world, go to leocloutier.com. Leo Cloutier is brought to you by Posterfix, where we bring your vintage posters back to life.